Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy. It's a new year, 2026.
I'm still writing 2015 on things.
That's because you probably got you a Toma. So what do you got for us today, Claire?
Trying to make sure I'm comfortable. Okay, so your hints today are: it's the home to the world's deepest lake,
Michigan?
the world's longest railway, and it's known for its ballet.
You got me on the ballet.
Russia! We're headed to Russia. But we are headed to Russia, and this one takes us to a place so isolated that even the locals say it's cursed. This is a case brought to us by one of our favorite listeners, Paulina. And this is one of the coldest, strangest mysteries I've covered so far, literally and figuratively. It's going to be the story of the Dyatlov Pass hikers.
The what?
What?
What did you say? The what?
Dyatlov Pass.
Oh, I thought you tripped over a word or something.
Sure didn't. Dyatlov Pass. And I'm going to also, disclaimer in there, I'm probably going to say some of these names wrong, so don't focus on that. And my apologies go to the dead.
Wouldn't it go to their families?
Them too. It's their name.
Anyway.
But I'm just saying, we're going to Russia, and this is the story of the death of 9 hikers.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we meet our hikers, picture this. A frozen wilderness stretching across the northern Ural Mountains. No color, no sound, just wind, screaming wind across the snow and rocks, tearing across the barren slopes with enough force to peel flesh from bone.
I already told you I was cold.
The temperatures drop to 40 below zero, and storms will roll in so suddenly that a clear horizon can vanish in minutes. And anybody who's ever lived on the mountains know, just how true that is. The weather can turn. And it's the same. We're just in a cold area, so it can turn real bad or real fast. And I can tell you, I darty-eyed a lot during this case because I was just like, who would want to hike in that?
I would. If you dress right, it's okay.
No. Mm-mm.
So one of my favorite things, not to get sidetracked, is when I'm running with the dog and it's cold. I think it's hilarious when my breath is on my scarf or my jacket or whatever, and it freezes, and there's almost like a dew like you see on the grass, like a frozen.
You're not running in 40 below.
I know that, but I'm just saying, I think it would be fun if you're dressed appropriately. You're not cold.
Okay, well, by the end of this, I'm going to ask you that, and not that I ask you anything, you just threw your thoughts out in there.
You did too.
Fine.
You said who would want to run in that?
I didn't say run, I said who would want to hike in that. And
Whatever. Me.
you've never even been in 40 below weather.
I would give it a shot.
Anyway, so you're going to need to focus on this one because I'm going to throw a whole lot of information at you throughout this whole thing. Don't get huffy.
I'm not.
But you need to understand the location and the people and all the things.
Okay.
So, also part of our story are the locals, the indigenous Mansi people. They call the mountain where our hikers are going to be.
Is this one of them words you can't pronounce?
You know what? Sometimes writing out phonetically and then trying to reread it, I go, I know it made sense to me before. But the one peak is called Holasako, which is translated means Mountain of the Dead. Now, to the Mansi people, the slopes weren't just barren wilderness, they were sacred. And it was called the Mountain of the Dead, not from some dark legend or hidden curse, but because the ground is so frozen and the winds so unrelenting that life is scarce. It's a place respected, not feared, because it's a real reminder of how small humans are in the face of nature's power. Now, the Mansi people have learned how to endure the cold conditions, and they're actually reindeer herders and hunters, and that's how their people survive. Now, their beliefs are tied deeply in nature and the spirits of the mountain. So we've got those people who are on the mountain that our hikers are going to go through.
Okay.
Now, the area that our hikers are going, like I said, there's limited tree growth, On the upper ridges, just rock, ice, and endless white void.
Sounds pretty.
The mountain stands over a valley of ice called the Osepi River, where wolves and elk still prowl. The nearest village is Visa, a small logging village that's 60 miles away, the last mark of civilization before the world turns white. So they're going to be in a very desolate area. It's one of those things that people still hike over there, but it's a case of it's such extreme hiking that if you have even the smallest accident, it's going to be life threatening because you're not near any help. It's not like a we can drive out of here. You hiked into a very difficult, very cruel part of the mountains, and it will take a long time, one, for people to find you, and to like coordinate an effort. On top of like, even if it was sunny, great weather, it's going to take a while to get to you.
Uh,
So then when you factor in the negative 40 degrees, if you're having an emergency, it's a big problem.
you're screwed.
Right. So it's like peak survivalism.
All right, so maybe I wouldn't go there then, with as often as I get owies.
Hmm. Well, the good news for you is you'd probably be early in. So,
I would take one step onto a trail and just whoop, banana peel it.
yeah. Now, that particular area that I was telling you that has the logging village 60 miles away, that's the corridor of snow and silence that these 9 hikers will begin their expedition in January 1959. Now, they're students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. They're young, skilled, adventurous, and determined. They're all part of a school official hiking and skiing club and all have level 2 or 3 certifications.
Out of how many levels?
I'm getting there. And if you're anything like me, you'd be wondering why on earth you'd want to hike and camp in that. And I suppose there's a certain thrill you might get doing something that not everyone can do and just constantly pushing the boundaries of your skills. And then also, you kind of ditch the world and bond with your friends and just share in adventures. And I could see that side of it. It's not something I'd be interested in. But for this group, they weren't novices about to wander into sub-zero conditions, so bear that in mind. Now, our adventurer's leader was Igor Dyatlov. He's 23.
I have him pictured as having a hunchback, like,
Igor.
yeah. I apologize if he's a victim.
I already told you, everyone in this is dead.
Okay.
So he's 23. I wanted you to know that one because, again, going into it, and we're on the cusp of it, but they're not just like if me and you went wandering in there and just they're not novices. So these are people who've been on hikes before, and I also want you to know they're all gonna die.
Well, that's why I was asking when you said the one was a level 2.
I'm about to tell you. So, Igor, a brilliant engineering student known for his calm leadership and precise planning, he is particularly known for his calm under pressure. He'd led multiple winter expeditions prior to this one. He even made some of the group's gear, including a portable stove for the tent.
Nice.
And for Igor, this would be the hike that would earn him his level 3 certification.
Ah, how many levels?
3.
Okay.
I thought I had it in here. I guess we'll get there. But the next hiker is Zenata Kolmogorova. She's 22. Zena is what they call her. Was a fearless and athletic kind of gal who laughed in the face of frostbite. She had several long-distance treks under her belt and was deeply respected by the others in the group. She did have a bit of a romantic history with Igor, but during this trip, they're just friends. Then we have Rustam Slobin. He's 23. He's quiet, dependable, steady. He's the engineer in our group and an athlete. He trained for endurance and rarely complained, no matter how brutal the conditions.
These are my kind of people.
Then we have Yuri Dorshenko. He's 21, bold, sometimes reckless, but brave to the core. During one of his hikes, prior to this one obviously, he chased off a bear with nothing but his geologist hammer, and his classmates would describe him as fearless.
Yeah, or a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Ludmila Dublina. She's 20. Now, she is the youngest in our group, and she's known for her outspoken and fiery personality. But beyond that, she's very disciplined, even if she has very strong opinions. Her dad would say she had a will of iron. She once carried a wounded teammate for miles during a mountain hike. So it's just like you can already see the collection of skills and experience, rather. That like it seems like a good set of people, and there's 9 of them.
Yeah. If you tell me they get taken out by the weather, this is not a murder. It's tragic, but not a murder.
Then we have Nikolai Thibodeau-Bigano. He's
Whoa.
23. The group's cheerful geologist and with a sharp mind and a wry sense of humor. He was a natural mediator when personalities clash, so another asset to the group. Then we have Alexander Klovanov. He's 25. He's analytical and thoughtful, the problem solver of the group. We're going to have 2 Yuris. We've got Yuri Krivonichenko. He's 24. He's another engineer. He's the group's joker, always smiling, always joking, almost childlike optimism. He also had survived the
Another word you can't pronounce.
Kishtim.
Oh.
Kishtim. He also survived the Kishtim nuclear disaster in 1957, which was one of the worst in Soviet history, aside from Chernobyl in 86.
Wait, what year are we in?
I told you needed to take notes.
You did not.
Because we're going to have a lot of people. January 59.
Okay.
So 2 years prior, he's going to survive a nuclear thing.
I don't know why, but I thought we were current. So when you said 1957, I was like, oh.
No.
Okay. Carry on.
But he had actually worked at the nuclear facility as an engineer during that time. And mind you, that's 2 years before this hike. So it's just like he's been in emergencies. He's
good under pressure.
Seen things. And he's only 24. So we got a lot of engineers in this.
They all sound like they're good under pressure.
So since we have 2 Yuris, when I talk about him, he's going to be Yuri K.
Eureka?
Eureka starts with an E.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you.
Anyway, then we have, next up is Simone.
Another one you can't pronounce.
Simone Zoltarov, who's 38. He's the oldest.
Yeah.
A decorated World War II veteran who joined the group at the last minute. He was also a certified hiking instructor. Now, he didn't know anyone prior to this trip, but he didn't want to miss an opportunity to work on his certification. So, for Soviet hiking regulations, they discourage doing lone treks, so he had to join an official group before setting out on an expedition. So that's why he wanted to tag along, because he wanted to work on his certification. And with his experience and background, the group saw him as an asset. So he'll be joining the group. And then last up, finally, our Yuri Yudin. He's 21. He was an engineer and helped with logistics, so supplies and all that, transportation, gear. But he's going to do the planning. And again, all of these guys and gals have hikes prior to this one. So we're going to strike out now that you know where we're going and who we're going with. It's January 23rd, 1959. The group's going to board a train from... Slovdinsk. Today's Yekaterinburg. Today's Yekaterinburg. The mood was light. They sang songs, snapped pictures, joked about the cold, even had a snowball fight. Now the pictures are going to survive, showing smiling faces, snow-covered hats, laughter frozen in time. The journey ahead was going to be brutal, but they were prepared. They had their skis, their tents, their map, camera, journals, and each other. Now, after days of travel, they reach Visa, the last village before the wilderness. Locals are going to recall them as polite, excited, and completely confident. The group would leave on January 27th and ski about 10 kilometers that day before setting up camp at an abandoned logging camp. The next morning, Yuri Y wasn't feeling very good, so he had some sciatica pain, and it was sharp and ran from his lower spine all the way down his leg. And he decided he's going to head back before they get really far into their trip. And he's super bummed to have to turn back. But this isn't a trip that if you're not 100%, you can just monkey on through. And if you can't do much walking, bending, or even carrying stuff, this isn't the journey.
Was he the 38-year-old?
No. He was the last one on our thing, the logistics feller.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
I didn't want you to get confused when I tell you Yuri goes home, and then later when Yuri's in the story again, that there's two Yuris. Yuri Y is going to be like,
Is he done in this story now?
yeah, he's
Okay.
he's headed home,
So then
and
we got Yuri number 2 went home. His sciatica acted up.
mhm. So he's going to hug his pals and head for home, and then the next morning, that's when the group is going to vanish into the Urals. So by January 31st, they camped near a frozen river. They buried extra food and gear for their return trip, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. That way you don't have to hike the whole way with supplies you're not going to need till you're on your way back.
Yeah.
Makes sense, although I kind of did a whole, I wonder what supplies. I can't imagine, like, I don't know. I'll take it from the group because they've got all their certifications that,
They've got it figured out at this point.
yeah, but I was like, what if things take off with it?
I was thinking more the snow, the frozen ground, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do that, which, again, I was like, huh, cool, makes sense. You don't want to haul more than you have to. So the next morning, they're going to begin their climb toward the dead mountain. Now the wind's growing stronger, the sky darkens, the snow starts coming down. Visibility will drop to almost nothing, like not being able to see the hand in front of your face. And still, they keep climbing. Now, by the time it gets to the night, they make a decision that's going to confound experts even today. They pitch their tent high on an open slope, exposed to wind and snow, rather than descending into the forest where the trees would at least shield from the wind. Again, to this day, experts are scratching their heads because it makes no sense. You have a group of experienced hikers. They're only a few hundred meters from the tree line where shelter from the wind waited.
I wonder if somebody was injured.
So I'm sure if by this point you're probably wondering how we even know the things we do. So the group has journals. So there are some things that we do know. Now, the last diary entry that Igor makes is, today, the weather is a bit worse with wind and snow. Until now, we walked along a Mansi trail that was crossed by a deer hunter not long ago. The hunter didn't follow the beaten trail, and we are now following in his footsteps. Walking is especially hard today. We can't see the trail and have to advance more slowly. Tired and exhausted, we start to prepare for the night. We had supper in the warmth of the tent. It's hard to imagine such a comfort with piercing wind hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements.
I don't know why people are so baffled because if visibility was down to nothing, like you can't see your hand in your face in front of your face, maybe they couldn't see the trees over yonder.
So that's what I said. What, or like, because I had Dave, I threw this one out for him too. I was like, I get the experts are baffled, and I'm no expert because I already said hiking and camping in below zero, not something that I'd be like, I'd like to do that. But I did the same thing of, if you can't see in front of you, how are you supposed to know where a better area was? It sounded like they were cold, they were tired, they were hungry, and they were like, you know what? Let's just pitch the tent here. But I don't know if it's because they walked through the trees, so maybe they figured they would have known they passed a tree, so they could have backtracked. Or maybe in hiking, you're not, I don't know. I don't know what the recommendation would be. If you can't see in front of you, maybe you don't backtrack so you don't get turned around.
Yeah.
But it was just, that's where they decided to pitch their tent.
Hmm.
Some people say maybe it was pride, maybe exhaustion, maybe they wanted the extra challenge of picking a crappy location.
What?
Maybe they just misjudged the weather, or maybe something about the mountain drew them in. Whatever the reason, that night, something's going to go horribly wrong. Now, when the group fails to return by February 12th, it doesn't immediately raise alarm because with bad weather and long hikes and everything, delays are common.
Yeah. Shit can get delayed.
Yeah. But by February 20th, a search team is sent out. Now, again, I want you to really focus on how these things play out, because from the 12th to the 20th, that's 8 days. I already told you that, like, if you have an emergency, seconds count even in the here and now. But 8 days, if you have an emergency, is pretty much hope you had your affairs in order kind of scenario.
Yeah, it's more recovery, so we can answer what happened.
Yeah. So they send out a search team on the 20th. Now, the teams, because there's multiple, they're going to consist of professionals, the military, fellow students who were also part of the Explorers Club, They had ground teams as well as aerial search parties because, again, you don't know where, like, you've got a general idea, but it's a needle in a haystack kind of scenario. Not to mention, kind of how you pointed out, if it's actively snowing, or like, not while they're searching, but like during those 8 days, that you're not gonna see anything if it's covered up.
Yeah. No trails, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting that the one fella wrote about following a hunter's trail because it was dumping down snow like that.
So that's where he said that they crossed a Mansi trail, and it hadn't been, like, it was fairly fresh, so that was why.
Yeah, for me personally, not an avid hiker. I lap my house. I would stay on the trail, but I realize they're more adventure seeking than me.
Well, so it's not a trail. They were just following. Well, yeah, I guess they went the non.
To detour, it seems like it would be more hazardous.
Yeah, who knows? We'll never find out because I'm not going. So 6 days into our search, the rescuers are going to find a tent. It's half buried, standing at an angle, ripped open from within, with a flashlight laying on top.
Ripped open from within?
So you ever, like, I'm gonna say picture like tinfoil or really anything. If you punch a hole from one side, it kind of flares out the back, so you can kind of tell which direction if you're going to take a knife and cut through.
Yeah, but that means somebody destroyed it from the inside?
Right. So somebody cut their way from the tent.
All right.
So inside, neatly arranged, is their gear. Their winter things: boots, money, food laid out as if they'd been preparing to eat. It looked as if whoever left had intended to come back, but never did. There's no footprints except those leading away, barefoot, single shoed, some in socks, downhill toward the trees.
What?
hmm Now, at the edge of the forest, roughly a mile downhill from the tent, stood a tall cedar tree. Now, I'm going to put a pin in there real fast because when I too did the whole, if the tree line's right there, why wouldn't they just go back? But I don't know if it's for, if like certain parts of this were written by people who are used to hiking several miles a day, but I wouldn't consider a mile away tree line right there. But so when they camped, if the tree line is a mile from their tent and they took a while, I feel like walking when you can barely see your hand in front of your face, that was a really slow
Mile?
like progression.
Yeah.
So to think about trying to turn back to try to set up camp near the trees, it's a mile back.
Yeah.
But roughly a mile from their tent stood a tall cedar tree. Now beneath it, the searchers are going to find two bodies.
Am I supposed to guess?
Hold up. Andrea, we're morons.
I am not.
There are 3 Yuris. That's why I had a note on there that's Yuri D, Yuri K, and then Yuri Yudin. Yuri Yudin went home because the 2 Yuris are going to be found at the base of this cedar tree a mile from the tent.
Okay, well, that's all you because I done can't see your paper.
I told you to take notes.
No, you didn't. You told me to pay attention.
Okay, fine. Well, you weren't paying attention because we had 3 Yuris in the beginning.
Well, I paid attention enough to know that you lied to me in the beginning because you said everybody you were naming and telling about died and the one feller
No.
left.
Mm-mm. I
Uh-huh.
said,
It's recorded.
hold up. I said the 9 hikers. If you were counting, I listed 10 people because one of the Yuris goes home. So I said 9 hikers are going to die in this story. All 9 of them.
He was a hiker and you hadn't finished listing them.
They hadn't started hiking. Now, our adventurer's leader was Igor Dyatlov. He's 23.
I have him pictured as having a hunchback, like,
Igor.
yeah. I apologize if he's a victim.
I already told you, everyone in this is dead.
I was right.
Anyway, so they're going to find the 2 bodies, Yuri D and Yuri K. So they find both their bodies, both barefoot, both wearing only their underclothing. Their hands were burned, fingers blackened as if they tried to hold fire itself. A small campfire burned nearby, its ashes scattered by the wind. One of the hikers had bark in his mouth. The other's fingers were worn raw, evidence of a desperate climb up the cedar tree, perhaps to look for the tent. There were no signs of struggle beyond that, no animal tracks, just sudden, desperate flight into the darkness. Above them, the tree branches were broken 5 meters up. Someone had climbed up the tree, maybe to look for the tent, which is apparently like they also have pictures prior to this, obviously, but where they would climb up the trees to get like better lay of the land kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't abnormal. The bark in somebody's mouth, I wasn't sure if somebody fell out of the tree and like on the way down did like a beaver kind of thing. I don't know how big the piece of bark was.
Or I would have guessed somebody was injured, maybe a bone broken. They go to set it. You know how you bite down on something? Oh,
That was not a thing that happened. He has no broken limbs.
fine.
Well,
We'll go with your beaver.
if you're on the way down, you could have toothed a branch.
I typically would spit that shit back out.
That's assuming you don't get knocked out.
He never came to. He's just splayed out.
He's dead. So that's part of the mystery of this story of the Dyatlov Pass.
Got
Now,
it.
from between the cedar tree and the tent, they're going to find 3 more bodies. Igor, Zinnia, and Rustum were found spaced roughly 30 to 60 meters apart, frozen mid-crawl, climbing upwards towards the tent. Igor's fists were clenched. He was dressed warmer than both Yuri's, but wasn't wearing shoes or gloves. Zinnia's face was bruised. She was laying on her side with her knees pulled up to her stomach, with her arms bent at the elbow, held up to her face. I figure if you're freezing to death, she was just trying to warm. It's real weird because it looks like they ran for their lives, but then were trying to find their way back to the tent.
And they're all in a state of undress.
Right. She's dressed better than Igor, but she too doesn't have her jacket or gloves on. Rustum, again, similar dress, only he's got a cracked skull. They're all facing towards like they're returning to the tent. So that's 5 people we've found so far. 4 are still missing. They try real hard. They don't find anybody. So since it's still wintry, that they're just like, we're going to have to wait till this weather improves. So in May,
Oh.
when the snow finally begins to melt, searchers find the remains of our last 4 hikers, Lidmila, Nikolai, Alexander, and Simon. Well, they're going to find our remaining 4 hikers buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine about 75 meters beyond the tree line. So still within the tent area.
That's sad.
Their injuries were catastrophic. Lidmila's eyes were missing.
Oh.
Her tongue, gone.
Oh.
Her body was also found in a peculiar position, on her knees with her face and chest pressed against a rock in a natural ravine. Nikolai's skull was shattered, a massive blunt force trauma. Simon's ribs were crushed inward, but his skin was untouched. A camera was found around his neck. They don't say particularly if it was tight, but if you open our email, you can peruse through some of these pictures, but it looks like he was choked with his camera.
Oh.
They don't say that, but it's just like the camera is like almost set on his neck, so it looks like it was pulled tight. But they're going to develop those pictures, which is what are the pictures they have of the group setting forth and all that up to. Alexander's neck was twisted unnaturally, his body showing signs of early decomposition despite the freezing cold. Are you looking at the pictures?
Uh-huh. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the one of the girl with her knees and her face and chest pressed against the rock.
Right. It doesn't look like a natural.
No, it looks like she was told to get on her knees right there and then smashed and just fell forward onto it. Her arms are up. These are so sad.
It's really so sad. Not gonna lie, when I saw that this was even to this day.
Oh. The missing eyeballs?
Yeah.
Oh, Claire. This is
It's a lot.
that's so sad.
Okay. So, with finding everybody the way they do, they're going to assign prosecutor Lev Ivanov. The spotlight is going to quickly turn towards the locals, the Mansi. To investigators, it made all too much sense. The hikers entered Mansi territory, deep in hunting grounds marked with strange symbols carved into the tree trunks. The carvings, of course, were just navigational marks that the hunters used so they didn't get lost, so they're harmless. But to outsiders, they're going to look unfamiliar and choose to look at them as warning signs rather than trail guides. Now, rumors are going to start to spread that the hikers had trespassed on sacred land and that the Mansi exacted revenge against their intrusion, and it was a story that people were able to hop on board easily.
Mm.
That it's all too easy to think savages are defending their mountain from outsiders.
Reminds me of The Hills Have Eyes.
Now, it's not going to take long before the Mansi hunters are hauled in for questioning, but some of the Mansi were even helped during the search parties because when they learn that there's missing hikers, they know that area, they know how to survive and navigate it. So it's just the local people were trying to help find the missing hikers. Not only that, but the evidence really didn't fit with their story. There weren't any other footprints other than those of the hikers, no weapon marks, no sign of struggle or abduction.
That doesn't make sense though, because if it was 8 days between.
I'm glad you said that too, because I was just like, I feel like you can't cling to what's not there because it sat exposed to all the things for a real long time.
It's getting erased on a daily basis. So,
Right.
I'm gonna go with the whole no footprints. That's
Gotta
malarkey.
throw that out. Now, when the hikers died, many of the Mansi are going to be like, it couldn't have been one of us. We were herding our reindeer. And then they also, in the case, they're like, we're going to rule out the Mansi because they're super helpful with our case. And I did do a darty eyed thing going, okay, nowadays, if you have people who are super helpful,
Yeah.
they're they're to the top of the list.
I'm gonna guess that people like this case is the reason why.
Yeah. Now, because of how quickly other people, like not investigator people, but jump on the Mansi being the ones that murdered the hikers, it's going to leave a scar on the Mansi community for decades because people are going to be like, they did it. And they didn't do it.
I can only imagine. You can't say a whole group of people murdered another group of people and not have it scar their reputation.
Yeah. So the investigation's going to continue because how do you have 9 people die? Ivanov noted that their skin had a strange orange hue. Their hair was grayish, as if the bodies had been exposed to something unnatural.
What?
And even weirder, locals are going to report that there were orange spheres of light in the sky that night.
It was the aliens.
So they were like, it was the military testing stuff in a desolate area, unaware that there were people hiking right there, and exposed them to some things. And the military is going to be like, no, we wouldn't have done that.
Oh, because the military would have been like, sure we did.
Now, when Ivanov pushes further, he's going to be told to quit his investigating, and they're going to close this case.
By who?
The higher ups.
Hmm.
He's going to be forced to close this investigation, and the official cause of death was recorded as an unknown compelling force. And just like that, the case is closed.
Oh, so the military did do it.
After 6 decades of speculation, theories, and silence, the story of the Dyatlov Pass refused to die. In 2019, Russia's prosecutor general's office made an unexpected announcement. We're reopening the investigation.
What?
Officially, they said it was to end the controversy once and for all. Unofficially, it was because no one believed the original explanation of maybe because it wasn't much of an explanation. One issue was that the criminal investigation paperwork was dated February 6th, which was weird because it's a week before the group was reported missing.
What?
Some people are going to be like, yeah, so that was just poor paper keeping. And then other people are going to be like, it was the Soviet cover up. So 60 years later, they're going to try scraping all the things together. Photos, autopsies, meteorological reports, terrain data, and are going to test 75 possible scenarios. Some included aliens, even American spies, or even the possibility that the group turned on each other. There was that one gal who liked one guy but was with the other. A whole love triangle thing.
I don't see a love triangle leading to crushed skulls and people climbing trees.
Well, and you generally end up with somebody who lived.
Yeah.
So out of the 75 scenarios that are thrown out there, only 3 survive scrutiny. The first being an avalanche,
No.
the second, a snow slab collapse,
No.
and 3, catabatic, catabatic wind events, the kind of freezing air blast that can knock you off your feet.
No.
But with the real shock wasn't which theory they tested, it was really how they did it. Believe it or not, the key to this reinvestigation came from one of the least likely places imaginable. Disney's Frozen.
What?
A team of scientists from Zurich and Switzerland were researching snow physics. To model how compact snow behaves under pressure, they contacted the animation team from Frozen
What?
and got access to their snow simulation software, the same one used to make Elsa's snow look real on screen. That code turned out to be scientifically accurate enough to model the snow at Dyatlov Pass.
Bullshit.
The researchers entered the data known, so like the slope angles, wind speed, snow layer density, and ran the simulation. The results stunned them. They found that a delayed slab avalanche is when you have a dense, silent sheet of snow that breaks loose. It could have slid hours after the hikers went to sleep, but it could have pressed down with crushing weight before stopping. So just imagine laying there in your tent, total darkness, then the sound of snow shifting above you, and then a sudden collapse. Then the walls are pressing in, the weight suffocating. You'd think the mountain itself was falling in.
But their tent wasn't buried. It was half buried, but it wasn't buried.
I'm glad you pointed that out because that was the reason they said the hikers sliced through the tent was if you think there's an avalanche, you got to get out quick. Which part of me goes, then why don't you go out the open tent? That seems faster than cutting your way out of the tent.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a bunch of hogwash to me.
Like you said, it's not like where's all the snow. But the researcher tested that against forensic data, and their model showed that the pressure from that kind of a slab could have caused the rib and skull fractures identical to those on Simon and Nikolai in the ravine, since they had massive trauma but no external wounds.
You know, I'm not entertaining this at all, mainly because it started off with a freaking Disney movie as their research. Their basic research is from a Disney movie. No.
So not from Disney, but they used the same software
Uh-huh.
that was used to simulate the snow in
Uh-huh.
Disney. However, this is going to be the only theory that matches physical injuries.
No.
So what I was thinking,
No.
actually, we'll continue on forward and then I'll tell you what I was thinking. So then number 2, was it really an avalanche?
No.
Not exactly. A full avalanche would have swept the entire camp downhill, but the Dyatlov team, their tent was still standing when found, half buried, not obliterated. The slope was only 23 degrees, barely steep enough for movement. What the team proposed was something new,
Uh-huh.
the slab slide.
No.
A localized snow shift caused by wind loading. Over time, snow builds up above the tent, and gravity does the rest.
Bullshit.
Or it wouldn't have been loud or dramatic, just a slow, dead weight, enough to make experienced hikers believe the mountain was collapsing, which would explain why they fled downhill,
No.
first to the cedar site nearly a mile from camp, where the Uris were found. Now, when that failed, Igor, Zena, and Rustum tried to crawl back toward the tent, but the blizzard claimed them before dawn. Now, the other 4 hikers that were found in May, they took shelter in the ravine about 75 meters beyond the cedar when another snow shift struck. The weight of several tons collapsed on top of them, causing the crushing internal trauma found in their autopsies. It fits almost perfectly.
Too perfectly.
But not everything adds up with that one. If the avalanche theory was right, why were there no signs of slide visible when rescuers arrived 3 weeks later?
Mm-hmm.
No snow debris, no distinctive flow pattern.
The tent still standing.
And during an autopsy on the paperwork, Some of the clothes tested had radiation levels.
It was the military.
Now, tests confirmed elevated levels on the clothing of Lidmilla and Alexander. Investigators said it could have been contaminated from Yuri K
What?
because he had a job at a nuclear facility, so it wasn't high enough to be like
Hmm.
crazy high, but there were trace levels. But then everybody was like, why were they even tested?
Because it was the military was accused and they were exposed to something.
Yeah, I guess. But that wouldn't explain why it concentrated on specific garments or the orange hue on some of the bodies. Then there's the big thing you can't miss, that eyes and tongues being gone.
Yeah.
The modern study chalked that up to postmortem scavenging and decomposition and running water.
What?
It's logical, but still unsettling.
A tongue doesn't disappear from running water.
So, since that gal was pressed up against the rocks, I guess they're making the assumption that as she started to thaw, those are your softer
Her
spots.
tongue's in her mouth. You're telling me she was smushed up against a rock?
Well, gravity, maybe her jaw opened up, and
No.
I can tell you I did the whole I don't know what all happened, but it's disturbing.
It sounds like a load of hogwash, and they should have said the truth, which is, you know what? It was back in the 50s, and we're not exactly sure if the tongue was cut out, ripped out, chewed off, melted off. We have no idea. Rather than just
Hmm.
say running water. What?
Okay, now we got our other theory, the katabatic winds,
No. I'm sorry. Every time
which
you
I've
mention anything weather related, I just picture Elsa doing her little hand gesture and like the little sparklies coming out of her fingertips in little swirls.
never seen it, so I'm gonna
I've seen it thousands of
too
times.
many
The
times.
girls used to watch it on repeat every day for about 2 years. The boys actually hid the DVD from them. Anyway, carry on.
Well, those being the brutal gust of winds that can rush down slopes at hurricane speeds. They can mimic the effect of an avalanche, flattening tents, disorienting climbers, and even lowering temperatures to lethal levels in minutes. If those winds hit that night, they could have blown snow onto the tent, triggered the slab collapse, or whatever. The winds alone were enough to send hikers running in a panic. It's one of those terrifying forces of nature that gives no warning, invisible, unstoppable, and absolutely merciless. Now, what I think is interesting is they keep trying to test theories that, like, one thing. I don't understand why it can't be all the things.
What?
Hold up. So my brain couldn't get past the fact that when they would say the near tree line and the near tree line was a mile away. So in that line of thought, you mean to tell me things couldn't have happened within that mile that fit all of the things? Like maybe the slab collapse didn't make them run from the tent because it didn't bury the tent. Well, what if the wind did make them think something was happening? Because wind can be crazy, can make you hear things.
Yeah, but they're experienced hikers, so I would rule that one out because the things that
Okay,
they've heard
hold
on
on.
all their treks, I'm sure.
But like the experienced people say, they hiked in or they camped in a spot they shouldn't have, which exposed them to wind. So this would be the first time they were in a tent
No.
in the middle of where they're exposed to the wind. So they shouldn't.
No.
So hold up, I'm telling you what I was thinking. You can't tell me no.
You don't know that, but you can't say that you know that this is their first time because you don't know what their other experiences were like.
Fine. But I'm saying in my thoughts of how all the things went down is maybe that was the first time they put themselves in a spot they shouldn't have because they've survived the other ones. And this time the wind did its crazy came in around the mountain thing, so it made them think that there's an avalanche enough that made them all experienced hikers run like they were going to be smushed by an avalanche. I think they ran, then couldn't figure out where the fuck the tent was. So that's why you had the one guy try to climb up a tree because they scattered. And then they couldn't hear each other because that tells me if you can't hear each other, the wind had to be loud enough. You can't call to one another. So somebody tried to make a fire and that didn't work. They tried to climb up the tree to see where the tent was. They couldn't do that one. And because when they realized they ran, it's not an avalanche, then they can't find their way back to the tent because they ran for their lives. And then from there, if like, because again, we're talking about a mile of room, it could have totally been a slab thing that smushed them to death. And then you figure 8 days later, and then some in May, they could have totally been smushed by snow. They would have never seen anything because they weren't found till May.
Well, they could have been smushed by snow after they were killed by somebody else, too,
Yeah.
thus resulting in their broken bones. But if you're going with the whole theory that the weather took them out, this case is stupid. It's tragic, don't get me wrong, because 9 people did lose their lives, but
Now, there is the, not to bring up like the Mansi people again and say that it's always the indigenous people who are killing the people who traipse onto their land, but I did the whole, they could probably figure out a way to be somewhere and then make it look like they weren't there.
it was 8 days later.
Right. But, so, well, and some of the ones in May.
Right.
But I did the darty eyed just because the whole community wasn't in on it doesn't mean you can't have one bad apple.
Well, I think it'd be more than one bad apple, but as we've seen in plenty of other cases, you can have a team of little weirdos that like to go out and torment people, and maybe they crossed paths and pissed them off beforehand.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they didn't want to go in the woods and they ended up camping up on the hill. They crossed paths with some people that it didn't end so well, and they were told, you can't stay here. So they went about a mile away and then camped out. Nobody knows.
No, yeah, nobody knows. And then there is the dispute of which side the tent was cut from. Some people will say it was clearly cut the other way. You've got that also argument as well, which makes more sense than somebody thinking there's an avalanche and trying to cut a hole in the tent. To me, going out the open tent would be faster, hands down, all the time. And it makes a whole lot of sense if somebody stabs the outside of your tent that you're going to fucking run half naked
Yeah.
into the snow if somebody stabs your tent.
Because all these experienced hikers, I don't see them having their boots so far away that they can't just grab them to slide on. The fact that most of them were barefoot or in socks, that they know they're going to lose their toes in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see a bunch of experienced hikers all running for their lives without grabbing jackets and trying to not even lace up their boots, but at least get something on their feet.
Well, the other side to it, that again, I hate to jump on the bandwagon of it could have been a Mansi person, was even to this day, there's a limit to the size blade you can have, and or like for like the hiking or the traveling and all that. So they wouldn't have been able to have this giant like Rambo blade with them. It would have been a teeny tiny pocket knife at best. So I don't see somebody being like, "Let me carve my way out of this tent to save myself from the avalanche."
Yeah.
So it's like it's not like they were packing these huge hunting knives. And since the Mansi people are local, I think it's more likely, so they're not traveling, they could have forged their own little blade because they're hunters and had a knife that wouldn't have been confiscated.
Well, and this weather doesn't seem to be any big deal to them because it's what they're used to. It's their norm.
Yeah. Now, Yuri, the surviving Yuri, he's going to die in 2013. You know, the 10th hiker who
Yep.
had his sciatic pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad for him because all his friends died. He nearly did if he would have stayed with the group, but they would interview him and he would just be as baffled as everyone else. But he said something strange happened there, and I don't believe it was nature.
I agree.
He would spend his life collecting documents, visiting the pass, and pushing for truth. He's one of the reasons that the 2019 investigation even happened. When asked what he felt when he returned to the site, Yuri said, "The silence there, it feels alive."
Well, that's just because he's a bit close to that whole situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a certain level of relief, which also leads to guilt. Because if he didn't have that pain, he probably would have been dead as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, by 2020, after the reinvestigation, Russia officially closes the case again. Their final conclusion: the Dyatlov group died as a result of a slab avalanche and hypothermia. That's it. No conspiracies, no monsters, just snow, wind, and panic. But even the scientists behind the study admit this explanation accounts for only most of the evidence, not all of it. The mountain will keep its secret.
Elsa did it.
Today, a memorial stone marks the pass, carved with 9 names, each one etched in legend. Hikers still travel there, tracing the route through the. I didn't add my phonetic stuff. Tracing their route. They say the wind sounds strange when it hits the ridge, like it carries voices, which I think is just more of the legends of the area.
Yeah, people do a great job of creeping themselves out.
Mm-hmm. The official story says it's the slab of snow. The locals say they saw the lights in the sky, and that's what did it. And maybe both are true. Maybe it wasn't the snow that killed him. But either way, that's the story of the Dyatlov Pass, the mountain that eats its own. But in regards to the knife size limit, it had to be within 3 to 4 inches.
That's kind of crazy because you would think that they would.
Bears?
Yes! Wolves, bears, all the things.
So it also, like, anything that would have been banned, which is why, like, when they took the train somewhere and then they stopped at the logging thing, if they would have been found to find anything that was bigger, it would have been confiscated. But it couldn't have, like, the double bladed, it couldn't have, like, serrated teeth, it couldn't be a Bowie style, a dagger. It had to be, like, a teeny tiny, a utility blade. That way they, for any sort of fire prepping, sharpening their skis, food prep, like, it had to be a teeny tiny foldable knife.
Mm.
But beyond that, your question of the categories of hiking, there are 5.
You said there were 3.
I know. So our hikers were level 2s and 3. And level 1 is a multi-day hike. Level 2 is like intermediate. 3 is advanced, requiring experience with winter conditions. 4 is expert with harsh terrain, longer distances. 5 is the highest level of nothing's gonna stop you. You're He-Man and Rambo combined without a blade.
Okay. So they're not experienced hikers at that point because if there are 2s and 3s, going based off of what the levels are, your one feller was becoming a 3 on that hike. The other feller had no experience at all.
Hold up. They had experience.
Not with that.
They were working on their certifications.
Yeah, but they.
So a lot of them were level 3 working on.
Nuh-uh. You said they were 2s.
2s and 3s because
No.
Dyatlov,
Mm-mm.
he was a level 3.
Most of them you said were level 2s. So this sounded like wild conditions.
So at the time of this thing, 5 didn't exist for tourists yet. So 3 was the top winter level for the expedition. Dyatlov, the leader, he was a level 3. He was fully qualified to lead a category 3 winter route. Xenia was a category 2. Rustum was a category 2. Lydia 2. Alexander 2. Yuri K is a 2.
I was right.
Blah, blah, blah. Simon was a 3. Okay, most everybody was a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or there were only 2 level 3s, Simon and Igor. They were leading the level 2 people so that they could earn their level 3 because this area met all the qualifications for if they did it, they would have earned their level 3.
Wait. Both level 3s were leading the level 2s to get their certification.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like the blind leading the blind.
Well, again, their experience, they had led expeditions before. It was planned out. And I hate to do like a whole safety and numbers thing, but I would think that 9 people hiking, you'd have enough people to figure out survivally things.
Okay, you can't sidetrack me here. So, again, what was a level 2 experienced with when you read what the different levels were just now?
Okay, so a level 2 means the person has already meted or exceeded the requirements of completing at least 1 multi-day trek with overnight stays, basic winter and mountain training, and documented experience through a route book.
Okay.
Category 2 hikers are considered competent, reliable, and skilled enough to enter more serious terrain, but not yet qualified to lead the harder trips.
Well, this sounds like a freaking devastatingly difficult trip if you can't even see your hand in front of your face.
Category 2 hikers are expected to know map and compass reading, routes, passes, and terrain changes. They're expected to know how to pace themselves along long distances, the layering required for frostbite prevention, cold weather camping skills, building snow shelters, safe camp setup,
Wait,
keeping fire and stoves going in harsh conditions, basic rope work for steep winter areas, crossing frozen rivers and slopes, how to support other team tasks, carrying group gear, emergency readiness. All of those things are considered something a category 2 hiker should be able to do. Category 2 treks usually had to include a 5 to 10 day length, over 40 to 80 kilometers with elevation changes, moderate winter conditions, and remote terrain, but not extreme alpine zones.
okay, negative 40 degrees and can't see your hand in front of your face is considered what level of
Dude,
terrain and weather?
you should watch the documentary on Amazon because this one feller decides he wants to go and see what the group endured, so he wants to do the same thing, like the same.
Tell me you're suicidal without telling me you're suicidal.
They actually turn back because it's so brutal. It's just like, now, mind you, when they get off the train and it looks cold, and like when they're trying to drive out towards where the logging camp thing is, that there's a truck that like went off the road because the ice and the snow. It's just like, tell me it's a place that shouldn't have people. Like, these are the signs. But I could see where I get that they're a category 2, so out of all the things that they weren't the highest. However, I think maybe it was a combination of too many youngins and maybe they needed a couple more 3s, but
They needed some, like, even a 3 doesn't sound.
I think of it like Girl Scouts. Of like you have like a bunch of them and a troop leader and you can lead a pack of them in the woods, but I don't think a lot of Russians cuz they're used to the code.
Apparently not.
But it was a wild case to read because it sounded horrifying and I don't know what happened, but it was real sad. And thank you, Paulina, for that head scratcher of a case of crazy.
Thanks for blaming it on Elsa, Paulina.
But the pictures, they like you can go on. There's a whole website because there are people who are still trying to figure out what all happened. And again, we'll never know, mainly because, like we've pointed out several times, when evidence started to melt away, that it was too long. It's too old. Too much has gone missing.
Well, and under the conditions that we know things were,
But yeah,
the possibilities, there's no way that, no offense to anybody in the past that attempted to do their job, but the things that they probably would have missed in the 50s,
yeah,
you can't expect a case present day to be able to pick up on that. The picture quality, the evidence, all the things.
yeah.
I feel like they're just trying to silence people to shut them up, not on a conspiracy level, but more on like they're just sick and tired of hearing about it.
Yeah. I thought it was wild that there was one that was like, there were American spies in the woods and they killed all 9 of them. I'm like, what? Why wouldn't they just shot them and let the bears eat them?
Right?
They didn't have to chase them all over the mountain trying to hide their footsteps. And that was the other thing that I thought was wild was like, there's no footsteps. Okay, it's May. If you had snow melting, what do you think you're going to find?
Yeah, and if the snow was so dense that it's causing,
Crushing.
no, it's causing like the slides and mini avalanches and all that nonsense, it's not going to be left in the mud
Yeah.
unless you've got some sort of Elsa's monster that stomps straight through onto the ground and leaves a giant footprint.
Well, I thought it was wild that one, they were like, there's no footprints, so they had to have killed each other. I was like, what?
Most of the people listening to this have never experienced the winter like that. But anybody that has experienced shoveling snow off a pathway, you know as well as I do. You go out there, you shovel that, and then in the morning, just from the wind blowing, let alone fresh snow falling, your path can done disappear. So to sit there and expect 8 days after the reported missing to go trek in and be like, oh, their tent's half
No, no.
covered, and then with the tent being sliced from the inside out, that sounds like a load of hogwash too.
So it was almost an entire month.
Right. And who's to say that didn't happen after they were already. How can they say when that got sliced open? And if the winds are so bad that it's causing the snow to shift and cause crushing injuries and all that nonsense, then who's to say that it flapping back and forth, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't even make any
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Well, that's why I was also doing some head scratching, because if it's like the early end of January, early February is around when they died. They're not reported missing till the 12th. The search doesn't start till the 20th, and then they're not found until the 26th, or their tent isn't, rather. But like, it's even, it's a lot of time in between.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I was doing the whole, I don't know why they're trying to only have one thing fit. It would make sense to me if the wind played tricks. They thought there was an avalanche, so they ran for it, which is why one person had a shoe on and that they ran, and then, I don't know. It almost seems weird to run in an avalanche anyway, because you're dead either way.
Well,
The tent being cut open and a flashlight being on top of the tent,
that doesn't make any sense.
no, like every part of it that you turn, it doesn't make sense. But like, what made them run from the tent? And then if we're ruling out the no footprints thing, then I again could see if somebody stabbed the outside of your tent, it'd go crazy and try to run out of there. That makes the most sense to me. And then if when somebody did that, they were just trying to scare them, thinking it was funny, like just fucking with people, that then you disappear and you don't kill any of them, but you're just like, oh well, that wasn't as, funny as I thought it'd be. They just ran.
Hmm.
I don't know why you would fuck with somebody like that, but there are probably people out there who would just fuck with somebody who's camping anyway. But that would be scary. I could see that being a reason somebody ran off.
It was one of the guys. They left the tent to go pee and then decided to pretend they were a bear. And everybody scattered.
Well,
And they was like, wait, wait.
be like, this is awkward.
I don't know. I'm going to say it wasn't the weather. Maybe for a couple of them that got far enough away, the weather took them out. But
Yeah. Well, I figured also the ravine, because by the time they found them in May, I really, as much as like the whole eyeball missing, tongue missing, that thing, that was, I don't know. I feel bad for all of them, because that seems like a brutal way to go.
I have a question also with the whole eyeballs and tongue thing.
Hmm.
She was found in the ravine.
Yeah. She was the one up against the wall.
Yeah, I get that. So if they're trying to say it was the weather, they didn't mention anybody else missing their eyeballs and tongue. One person out of 9 had their eyeballs and tongue disappear. That doesn't make sense.
None of this case makes any sense.
It sounds like she done was staring at somebody when they crossed paths with them locals and then maybe ran her mouth a little and they had to teach her a lesson.
So evidently, Simon was missing both of his eyes,
But not his tongue.
with zero evidence of violence towards his head or face. So just the two of them.
It's weird. Like, you can't say it's the weather, but then 7 other people still have their eyeballs intact.
Yeah. Which the way it was excused was they were soft tissue areas that were exposed to freezing and thawing conditions and the activity of insects.
What? It was snow. What?
And because those areas extremely fast decayingness.
All right, Russia. Sure.
Yeah, I did a darty eyed. Okay, but I would think that if bugs or things ate it, it would look chewed. And I don't know how close you looked at some of those pictures, but it's just like, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what would be normal.
There's several feet of snow. What bugs are eating eyeballs?
Well, the ones in May.
The eyeballs are frozen.
Well, in May when they find them.
The pictures you sent me, those bodies are still frozen. Have you ever left any meat out to thaw? It takes time. In May.
But did you zoom in on that
No,
dude's eyeballs?
No, ma'am. I saw the big gaping hole in his face and I was like, that is heartbreaking to see.
Yeah.
I didn't need to zoom in to investigate.
It's just horrifying. And I did the same of like, how can you be missing eyeballs and a tongue and it not be like some shit happened?
I'm going to say it was 2 or 3 guys.
But this case has fucked with me. And again, there's a whole website devoted to all the things because, again, it closed again without people being satisfied. But too much happened. They were too far away. And again, when you're talking about being camping out in that cold and that far away from help, everything could be deadly.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie The Hills Have Eyes?
You know.
You should watch it. That's your homework.
Okay.
Because it's a desert version of the story of these.
Survival stuff.
Not really. Like this, I don't remember. It's been a
What?
long time. It's been a long time, but basically, like these intruders come into this land, and this family of incest community are living in the hills. Like they have this whole system and attack the intruders in the night. It's crazy. You should watch it.
Well, that's where I thought it was wild of when in the investigative report things from when it was originally being investigated is that we're going to rule out the Mansi entirely as a whole because they helped us try to find the hikers when they were reported as missing. I seriously did a darty-eyed of like, that's like saying a group of white folk helped us find these other people, so all white people couldn't have done it.
I don't understand the logic at all, especially because they know the area. They're familiar with like the temperatures, the weather, and how to move around.
Yeah, and I can tell you if I killed a bunch of hikers and volunteered to help search for them, I would step all over everything and be like, oh, these were here from when I was looking for them.
You could also be like, let's steer you this direction.
Yeah, but so that was also, I know you don't like the weather
Theory.
option as a theory, but since it took them so long to find the other 4, that's also why I figured the whole slab shifting, snow crushing thing was a thing, because then they had to have been buried by snow for not to have been seen till May.
No, if you can't see your hand in front of your face and the snow is coming down heavily, it wouldn't take much to bury a body.
That's what I'm saying. Well, even that, any sort of snow, it's going to pack down, but I'm saying like
It doesn't even have to pack.
when they were looking for them, because they weren't that far from like the tent, and again that we're talking about a mile around the tent, that they weren't that far from where the other people were found, so they had to have been under a good amount of snow.
I need to know what the weather was because in that 3 weeks, how much snowfall did they have? And in that 3 weeks, what was the wind like? Because even if they had some light snow, like the dusty kind of snow, but heavy winds, that piles up. So if they had 2 feet of snow in that 3 week period, how many days into their trip, approximately, was it before they most likely were taken by the elements or attacked? Because from that point forward, if their body is laying on the ground for 10 days and they had 6 inches of snow, you've got the body kind of sinking into the snow and then buried with 6 more inches. If they didn't step in the correct spot, they're not going to find those bodies. It doesn't have to be an avalanche or a slide or whatever nonsense. All it takes is the wind blowing and burying the body, and you're not going to see it until it melts. So, depending on the weather, that could have hid their bodies. I'm going to say they were attacked. This is a bunch of bullshit.
Okay. I don't know how much snow fell, but in average.
Do you get what I'm saying though? Is like when they went to go find the bodies, if it was already a difficult weather situation going on, it's going to be even more difficult to discover those bodies.
Yeah.
And it's easy to have hindsight's 2020 clarity nonsense of the trees were just over yonder. Well, you don't know what was lurking in the trees that made them go set up tent over there. And they were apparently weren't as experienced as we would have hoped for negative 40 degrees.
In January, there were 20 to 35 inches of snow. In February, from the 1st to the 21st, 15 to 25 inches, depending on which particular spot. So about 35 to 60 inches from January to February.
Okay, so like I said, it wouldn't have taken much to bury the bodies. And if they weren't looking in the correct spot, it would have been very easy just to walk on by. And it's not like they had.
At the ravine, the snow depth exceeded 10 feet.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
But that was months of accumulation and snow drifts, not just fresh snowfall.
Right. That's what I'm saying is like it doesn't take much.
My God! During their hike, they endured 3 to 5 feet of total snowfall.
Thank you. That is exactly what I'm saying. So when they went to go
My God, that is so much snow.
right,
My toes are cold just thinking about it.
right. So that's what I'm saying though, is when they went to go try to find them, it would have been very easy to just walk past their bodies because unless they stepped directly onto it and used some sort of stick or however they were using to test what was buried beneath them, they could have just walked on by.
I had you singing that in my head. Walk on by.
All right.
I don't remember the rest of that song.
I figured.
Anyway,
Well,
that's all I got.
well, thanks for that, Paulina.
Yeah, thanks for that head scratcher of a wild case.
It's not a head scratcher. They were murdered.
Oh my God. This is like the never ending case. We don't know what all the things. It's an unsolved. Everybody has their opinions. There's 75 of them if you want to scroll through their website. And again, with the aliens, because people saw lights.
Was it the Northern Lights?
Oh, that was like one of the things. That's why they were saying the lights, because they were saying orange. Well, no, the people's skin were orange. They were saying they were testing weapons in the mountains, the military was, and that's why they got exposed to some radiation. They were also saying if they blew some shit up, then that could have been a scary and made people run from their tent. I personally think the whole cutting to leave the tent, that one's wild. And depending on which one's right, of whether somebody cut into the tent or they cut themselves out of the tent. Cutting out of the tent doesn't make sense. Cutting into the tent seems super scary.
And then being on the side of a mountain, exposed to the wind, that fabric was flapping back and forth. And I can pretty much guarantee in the 50s, they did not have the knowledge of being able to really tell which direction it was cut from.
Yeah.
And realistically, if it was like it got torn later, like they were already dead and it got torn later or cut later, I don't know.
I don't either. It just sounds like, the house is on fire. Let me go through this drywall instead of the door.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's a stupid theory.
Yeah.
Elsa did it, is the response that the government gave. Great.
Regardless of, since we don't know what happened, we'll never know what happened, it's super sad that they all died the way that they did because the pictures are unsettling at the very least.
Yeah, they're like perfectly preserved bodies of terror.
And so sad. Because you figure when they were reported missing till when everybody's brought home is like so sad.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for his friend or their friend that survived it and never got any closure to what happened. So thank you again, Paulina.
Mm-hmm. And just in case I can't edit it out, Claire's stomach was all kinds of gurgly. That was not me. I noticed a few times in there where you were just in the middle of talking and I could hear the
dude. So when we record in the morning, sometimes it's like before, because I'm not super hungry right when I get up, but it's just like towards the end of our recording, I'm real hungry. So I ate a banana and chugged my coffee, and then when I came up here, apparently I should have just stuck with starvation.
Apparently, your innards like to have conversations with our fans.
You'd think I'd have the mic sitting on my stomach and I'm just talking into it as it's like on my belly button. That's not how I sit.
If anybody hears it, it's Claire, not me.
Yeah, I've got a healthy digestive system. But Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. Claire's gonna fuck with your brain holes and give you a case that's bullshit.
And for the majority of you listening to this in the comforts of your heat, just remember, whatever degrees it is outside right now, it's not -40.
Unless you're in Russia, and it is.
We're probably banned.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Anyway. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mind-fucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.